Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is a Guns for Liberals news update. I'm Keith Denny, and I am a card-carrying member of the NRA. Why? A man who, if you've been following the series, you know does not in fact own a gun yet. Why would he be a member of the NRA? The answer, because he believes very strongly in the value of the Second Amendment. I am what you might call an NRA Democrat. And I think that this is a demographic to which the Democratic Party ought to orient itself. This is a demographic that the Democratic Party ought to take seriously. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, when she's not busy trying to screw Bernie Sanders, might think about all those purple states and all those purple districts where if the Democratic Party would simply move toward the center on the Second Amendment issue, they would suddenly be very competitive. They might be back in control of the House. They might have never even lost the Senate. But as long as the Democratic Party wants to stay out here on the fringe and talk about far-fetched scenarios in borderline hysterical tones that sound like nothing quite so much as gun confiscation, those people in the middle who are there for the taking in the purple states are going to lean Republican. You want to be competitive? You want to steal the Republican Party's pie right out of their basket at a time when the best they have to offer is the likes of Donald Trump? Then move to the center on this issue. Barack Obama, our fearless leader, this man, by the way, a smart guy, a professor of constitutional law in his spare time when he's not busy being president, someone you would think had all kinds of analytical tools, a cold, relentless logic that he could employ at any time, made a astonishingly emotional appeal for more gun control just a couple of nights ago. Now, this is a smart guy. This is a guy who, when he wants to, is astonishingly logical, astonishingly dispassionate. But not this time. He's on TV, he's just plainly emotional. Well, okay, I've said this before, I'm going to say it again right now. It's a normal thing to have an intense emotional response to horrific gun violence. It's not the least bit surprising. But it is not a good enough basis to start dismantling the Second Amendment. Let me tell you a little story. Let's hop in the Wayback Machine, go back to Boston and Massachusetts in the 1700s before the American Revolution. Things were starting to heat up there. People who were not that happy with the British East India Tea Company, people who were not that happy with the King of England, and the colonial authorities of the King of England decided they would go around and take people's guns away. They would confiscate their guns because, hey, the king wanted to stay in power. He didn't like these people talking about freedom and stuff. That's no good for the crown. And so they went around and said, well, we're going to take your guns. And you know what the people in Boston and Massachusetts said? They said no. Think about that. If they roll over on that, if they were akin to the extreme left wing of the Democratic Party, which seems to be driving this anti-Second Amendment hysteria based on intense emotional responses, would there even be in America? Would there have ever been a United States of America and an American Revolution? Would any of that have ever happened? The people who wrote the Constitution, who wrote, voted for, argued for, ratified the Second Amendment, They had recent first-hand experience with tyranny, with fascism, and they wanted it never to happen again. And their last-ditch stopgap safeguard was making sure that there were a whole lot of Americans standing around with guns saying no when the King's men came knocking at the door. Now, let's talk about people working together. This is not just, the idea of the NRA Democrat is not just a great idea for the Democratic Party to gain an advantage in hotly contested electoral districts and states. It is about how democracy, and for that matter, civilization, is supposed to work in the first place. It is about people working together, compromising, meeting in the middle, respecting each other's opinions when they cannot agree, and working together on the stuff where they do agree. If you take away the guns of American citizens, you put into place the machinery of fascism. And you are, in my humble opinion, regrettably, if not astonishingly naive to think that if you put that machinery in place, that it would never be used. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. I'm Keith Denny. This is a Guns for Liberals news update.